My name is Serena Mitchell. I'm 33 years old, and this is the ugliest truth I own. I destroyed my marriage with one choice I made in the space of a few minutes. I don't blame the commercial we were watching, or the argument that followed, or the simmering resentments that were growing in the corners of our life like mold under a sink. I blame myself. I'm writing this in my little apartment on a Tuesday night, after dropping my kids back at their father's new house. And the silence is so loud it feels like it might swallow me. I want you to hear my side. Not because I deserve sympathy, but because I think there are 1,000 tiny steps to every catastrophe. And if I trace mine carefully, maybe someone else will notice the first step and stop walking. I married Marcus when I was 25, and he was 28. He's 36 now. We met in a coffee shop near the city college where I was finishing a certificate in copy editing. I spilled a box of muffins, he knelt to help me, and when we stood up we were both dusted in sugar. He had that calm, grounded way of moving, as if he belonged exactly where he was. He asked me out with a smile that was more eyes than mouth. I said yes before my head caught up with my heart. We built a life that looked, from a polite distance, like any cozy family portrait you'd find in a picture frame on a Target aisle. We bought a small ranch house on a tree-lined street, a place where kids still threw chalk on the sidewalks. Marcus worked as a firefighter, steady, practical, unflappable, and I found a job as a copy editor for a small publishing imprint. We had 3 children, Noah, now 9, Grace, 7, and Eli, 4. If you ask me for my happiest montage, it's our kitchen on a Saturday morning. Pancakes, cartoons, Marcus humming while he flips bacon, Noah quizzing me on dinosaurs, Grace braiding my hair with patient devotion, Eli crawling through the pile of shoes on the mat like a small, dedicated archaeologist. We did movie nights, double blanket burritos on the couch. We took the kids camping and spent the first hour arguing about how to pitch the tent, and the next night whispering in the dark, listening to our children snore. We were a team, except when we weren't. Inside the house, away from everything neat and framed, we argued about real things and stupid things. Who was picking the kids up? Why did the trash smell like a science experiment? Who forgot to sign the permission slip? Some nights we'd watch reality TV shows and judge other couples for being messy about nothing, and we'd end up replaying our own old fights under the guise of just discussing. Sometimes it was politics. Marcus with that stubborn, quiet line he drew around certain beliefs, me with my chest full of heat for the opposite stance. We loved each other. We also bruised each other in 1,000 small ways that never left a mark you could point to. My sister Lila lived 10 houses down, in a blue bungalow with a lemon tree that never gave lemons. She's 3 years younger than me, all luminous skin and wild hair, the kind of person people orbit without realizing they're doing it. Her boyfriend, Jordan Reyes, 32, spent a lot of time at her place. He worked HVAC, always in a shirt with someone's last name stitched above the pocket, always with dust on his boots. They had a daughter together, Ava, who turned 5 last spring and said my name like it was a song, Reina, stretching it as far as it would go. We were not best friends, Lila and I. Sisters, yes, a complicated braid of jealousy and devotion and history. But we were close enough that our kids shared popsicles on the curb while we shared family gossip. I need to put a pin in the day it happened, though, because if the day were a shelf I could pull it down and smash it to shards at my feet and feel, for 1 second, like the damage might even out. It was a Thursday and the kids had all finally fallen asleep. Marcus and I were on the couch, shoes off, the television throwing blue light across the living room. A commercial came on. One of those voter ads that tries to distill a life-or-death issue into 30 seconds. Abortion. I asked him, the dumbest version of the question, the kind that isn't really a question. Do you believe in abortion, yes or no? He said no. He said it quietly, like an answer he'd rehearsed and filed away, not an invitation to wrestle. He said kids are a blessing and destroying blessings is wrong. I said women have bodies that are theirs first. I said choice like it was a god. The thing is, Marcus and I had argued about this before. It was the perfect shape of a trap. too big for our living room, and yet exactly the right size to press every button we each had. I got loud, he stayed calm. That was the architecture of so many of our fights. My voice rising like water in a glass. His composure the ice cube that refused to melt. And when I got louder, he got calmer. And when he got calmer, I got meaner, because I wanted him to meet me where the fire was. He didn't. He rarely did. I was yelling. I'm not proud of the things I said. I was saying if I were ever in that position, I wouldn't want a law to decide for me. He said something like, "We're not in that position." And I heard, "Your feelings don't matter." He was still. Unmoved. He said, "Serena, can we talk about this when we're both tired of fighting?" And something in me, something self-righteous and childish, snapped. I grabbed my jacket. "I'm taking a walk," I said, because apparently the front yard needed my rage more than he did. I slammed the door hard enough to rattle the keys hanging on the wall. It was cold, the kind of cold that bites the inside of your nose. I walked down our street under the yellow wash of the streetlights, counting the cracks in the sidewalk just to keep from spinning out. That's when I saw the car, a silver sedan I recognized as Jordan's, parked in front of Lila's house. His head was tilted back against the seat, phone in his hand, music low. Maybe he'd just gotten off a late call. Maybe he was avoiding going inside in case Ava was still awake. I don't know. I walked toward him before my brain issued a single instruction. I knocked on the window. He startled, then smiled and rolled it down. "Serena? You okay?" His voice was warm. Jordan is one of those men who sees small things. He notices when you cut your hair or swap out your nail color, when you switch brands of eyeliner, when your sweater has a new snag. Marcus used to notice those things too. The first years, the way a new shirt would get a raised eyebrow and, "That's a good color on you." The last couple of years, he noticed bigger things. Bigger things matter. But I had missed that gaze, the intimate inventory of tiny changes. "Just needed air," I said. "We were arguing." I made a spiral gesture with my hand, like that would cover a chasm. "Hop in for a sec," he said. "Warm up." I knew better. I knew better in the same way you know you shouldn't scratch a healing scab or read a late-night text from a number you shouldn't have. I got in anyway. The car smelled faintly of lemon cleaner in winter. We talked about nothing, then about the argument. I said I hated how calm Marcus was, how I felt like I was drowning and he'd thrown me a cinder block with a polite note attached. Jordan nodded. "That'd make me crazy too," he said, not in a way that egged me on, but in that simple, pure way that says, "I see what you see." He said, "For what it's worth, I agree with you." He said a lot of things that sounded like compliments, that I was smart, that I had a way of saying complicated ideas like they were easy to hold, that my hair looked good with the little lighter pieces near my face. He touched the air next to my cheek without touching me. I wish I could tell you there was a slow, tragic slide into something dangerous. There wasn't. It was sudden and stupid and impulsive, and it lives in my body like a bruise that never fades. His eyes flicked to my mouth. Mine flicked back. We kissed, and it shocked me like sticking my finger in a socket. It was the wrongest thing I've ever done, and I did it again immediately because wrong felt like relief in that one hot second, like the universe had tilted and I wasn't the person with the most to lose. We tumbled into the back seat. I will not describe it. There is nothing erotic about betrayal. There is only the shaking afterwards, the heartbeat in your ears, the stranger in your own chest. After, I stared at the car ceiling and realized I had just cheated on my husband with my sister's boyfriend in front of my sister's house. The bile rose in my throat. I pulled my clothes back on with clumsy hands. "This was a mistake," I said. And even as I said it, I wasn't talking to Jordan. I was talking to the version of me that would have to live with me. I ran back home. Marcus was still on the couch, the TV low, his posture unchanged. He looked up. You okay? You were gone a while. I'm okay, I said, a lie with the weight of a planet. I hugged him too tight, like maybe if I pressed hard enough I'd absorb his calm through osmosis. I love you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry too, he said. He kissed my forehead. We went to bed. In the morning, Marcus made breakfast: eggs, bacon, avocado, toast, and got the kids ready for school. He even drove them, which was usually my job on Fridays. He did it the way he does everything, without fanfare. As if kindness were a muscle he strengthened deliberately. Watching him at the stove, sleeves pushed up, hair still damp from the shower, broke something open. Guilt is a heavy animal. It sat down in my chest and refused to budge. For days, Jordan texted. Just little things. Are you okay? And then I can't stop thinking about last night. I didn't respond. Each vibration made my stomach ice. He called once. I watched his name glow on the screen until it stopped. He texted again. I've never felt that way. I want to see you. I deleted the message and then, panicking, deleted the trash. I thought I was covering my tracks. I thought like a teenager. I thought like an idiot. 3 weeks later, Lila texted, Ava's birthday. Saturday. You're coming, right? I tried to craft an excuse, but you can't lie about being busy when you live 10 houses down. If I didn't go, she'd come over to check on me, and then I'd be lying inside a lie. So I said yes. The next part is a thing I wish I could unwrite from myself. I texted Jordan. I'll be at the party. Please don't be weird. We can't be weird. This was a mistake. It can never happen again. Don't text me like that anymore. Delete everything. Do not tell Lila. Do not tell anyone. He wrote back too quickly. I hear you. I'm sorry. I won't make it weird. The party was the usual chaos. Paper streamers slapping the ceiling fan. A cake that looked better than it tasted. Balloons whose knocking sounded like distant applause. A cooler full of sodas. Kids a stampede of sugar. When we arrived, Lila hugged Marcus and me in turn. Jordan hugged me too, and the hug was half a breath too long, and in that half breath I felt the shape of the cliff I'd fallen from. My heart started sprinting. I tried to anchor myself in small tasks, tying balloons, passing out napkins, complimenting the cake, telling Ava she looked like a princess. Jordan kept floating toward us with harmless talk. Did you see the game? You hear about that new Tesla? And his eyes kept snagging on mine like burrs. And then the neighbor wandered over. Every neighborhood has one. Friendly, chatty, drunk on proximity. He held a paper plate sagging with chips. Hey, y'all were getting it on a couple weeks ago, he said, like he was commenting on the weather. Silence fell around us like a dropped bowl shattering. What are you talking about? Lila's voice went sharp instantly. In the car, he said. Right out front. Window wasn't all the way fogged up, so... Listen, I got kids. Lots of kids around here, you know? I wish y'all could have got a room. We got a camera that catches the street. Records 24 hours. He patted his pocket like he was reminding himself he had a phone. My knees went weak. I had a flash of clarity so bright it hurt. This is how you get caught, not by romance or guilt, but by doorbell cameras and bored men with time. I opened my mouth to pivot, to laugh, to say something, anything, that would misdirect the heat running toward me like a burning fuse. I was too slow. The neighbor was already swiping. I can pull it up. Hold on. He cussed softly at his phone, then found it. He turned the screen outward. The night bled blue on the video. The timestamp blinked in the corner. There I was, walking down the sidewalk in the jacket I'd worn for 3 winters, the one with the missing button. There was Jordan's car. There was me getting in. A while later, the outline of bodies moving in a way that didn't require criminal imagination. The car shook as plainly as a story told in big words. The neighbor enlarged it, then realized and shrank it, flustered and suddenly less sure of himself. He didn't need to be sure. The evidence was enough. Is that you? Lila asked. She didn't look at the screen. She looked at me. No, I said reflexively, the way you say no to a question that threatens to set your life on fire. But Marcus was already shaking his head. That's you, he said softly. That's the jacket you wore that night. We argued and you went for a walk. Lila turned to Jordan. What is he talking about? Jordan's mouth opened and closed. He looked at me like a man falling down a well. He's seeing things, he said, and even he didn't sound like he believed himself. Lila started crying. The sound wasn't loud. It was private and animal, pulled from under a rib. Why? She asked me. Why would you do this to me? She was looking at me as if I could hand her an answer like a spare key, like the thing that unlocks a door between two rooms that used to connect. I didn't have an answer. There are reasons: loneliness, heat, pride, longing. But reasons aren't excuses, and they don't make the ground rise up again under your feet. Marcus didn't say anything. He put his cup down and walked away the way he does everything, quietly, with purpose. He walked out of the backyard, out the side gate, down the sidewalk. I stared after him until the corner turned him into nothing. Lila pointed at the gate. Get out, she said to both Jordan and me. Not a scream, just a sentence with edges. Both of you. We are done. Never come back. Never contact me again. You will never see Ava. The last sentence stabbed deeper than anything she could have said to me alone. I loved that little girl. I had been present for her first laugh. I had band-aided knees and braided hair and carried her to her bed when she fell asleep in the wrong room. I had forfeited that family in one night. I went home and called Marcus. He didn't answer. I texted. He didn't answer. I sent long blue paragraphs that read like the minutes of a meeting I wished I could adjourn. He stayed gone the whole night. He came home in the morning and walked past me without a word. He showered, dressed, and went to work. That pattern repeated for days. He didn't yell. He didn't throw anything. He simply refused to meet me on the battlefield I'd chosen. The silence was not revenge. It felt like a declaration of independence. For 2 weeks I begged. I promised therapy. I promised to confess anything he wanted to hear, even if it made him hate me more. Jordan called and texted. I didn't respond. I blocked him. Lila's silence was a thick fog I walked through every time I stepped out of my house and looked 10 doors down at hers. On a Tuesday night, Marcus sat at the kitchen table and folded his hands as if he were about to pray. I want a divorce, he said. Everything after that sentence is a blur I can still map. How I slid to the floor and pressed my forehead to the tile. How the refrigerator motor sounded like a dull saw. How I said the kids needed us both. How he said, you broke us apart. He was generous in the ways that matter legally. Keep the house, he said. We'll split the savings. We'll split custody. I don't want to burn it all down. He wasn't punishing me with money. He was leaving me with myself. We signed papers. We divided books and photos and the coffee maker we both claimed we didn't care about, and then argued over as if it were the only thing that could brew our mornings. He moved out. He sent one final message a week later. From now on, any communication should go through my lawyer. Please don't call or text. It came by email, formal and impersonal and merciful, because it told me exactly where the boundaries were. I kept the house for a while, out of stubbornness and love and a magical thinking that says if you keep the shell, the creature will eventually crawl back in. A mortgage does not care about magic. 6 months later, I gave it up. The apartment I rent now is clean and small. The kids call it cozy. I call it the consequence. The year that followed taught me the geography of loss. My sister wanted nothing to do with me. Jordan and Lila broke up, obviously. They share custody of Ava because California family court, which is less humiliated by you than you are. My parents were furious, exhausted, then fragile. Friends took sides, or didn't, and the space on my couch where a friend would sit became a scab I kept scratching. I tried to date. Terrible, app-based attempts at replacing a person who is not replaceable. Men as wide as they were shallow, asking for pictures of me like they were ordering off a menu. I stopped. Marcus bought a new house, a tidy 2-story a neighborhood over, a backyard big enough for a grill and a soccer net. The kids love it. He started seeing someone a few months later. Camilla, 29, all light and sinew. The kind of pretty that looks like an argument you can't win. I saw her for the first time at Noah's school concert. She was kind, and she was careful, and she did not owe me any of the gentleness she showed me. The kids liked her. Of course they did. She's steady, she smiles easily, she remembers to bring cut fruit to the park. Watching my daughter plop into Camilla's lap to show her a drawing felt like swallowing a thumbtack and nodding politely through the pain. I did try to fix what could be fixed. I went to therapy. I learned what it means to be angry in ways that don't require casualties. I learned how to say what I need without wrapping it in barbed wire. I wrote letters to Lila that I didn't send, then letters that I did. The ones I sent came back metaphorically torn. Short replies that said, "Please stop," or nothing at all. I showed up for my kids in all the boring, holy ways that matter. Dentist appointments, school projects, soccer practice in the rain. I stopped trying to turn my mistakes into lessons for other people and focused on letting them be lessons for me. 18 months after the divorce, I asked Marcus for one meeting. He agreed on the condition that we meet in a public place, a rule that was partly about safety and partly about the mercy of having a time limit. We met at a coffee place near his house. It felt like standing at the edge of an old map. "I'm not here to convince you of anything," I said. "I'm here to say sorry correctly, not like a person trying to bargain." My hands shook and I held the cup with both of them. He nodded. "Okay." "I am sorry," I said. "I'm sorry for the betrayal and for the lying and for making you carry my decision. I'm sorry that I made our home unsafe. None of this is your fault. You didn't make me do it. I did it." He was quiet for a long time. He looked exactly the same and exactly different, like a house that's been painted a new color. Finally, he said, "Thank you for saying it." He didn't say, "I forgive you." He didn't need to. Forgiveness is less a thing other people hand you than a door you learn to walk through alone. We were co-parents after that in a way that felt functional. We were not friends. We were two adults carrying one heavy thing carefully between us so it wouldn't break. The lives of 3 kids who deserved better than the version of us we'd been. There are still nights, like this one, when the quiet is hard enough to chew, where I watch the shape of what I had and what I lost flicker like an old movie on the wall. There are also mornings when Eli laughs so hard at a joke he can't repeat it, when Grace's forehead creases as she concentrates on tying her shoes in double bows, when Noah pulls me by the sleeve to show me a drawing of a velociraptor that looks like it could run off the page. There are hours when the life I still have is enough. If you asked me to be a historian of my own ruin, I'd tell you about that argument, because that's the night I opened a door. But the hallway to that door was long. There were smaller choices far before the commercial on the couch. The months when I let resentment grow unchecked like ivy. The days when I let validation from outside feel like oxygen. The mornings when I found more satisfaction in being right than being kind. I used to think marriage was a thing you protected from big monsters, the dramatic threats. I think now it's mostly protected from small ones. Neglect, arrogance, the refusal to apologize before the other person does. I didn't cheat because Marcus and I disagreed about politics. I cheated because, at a specific moment, I wanted to feel seen and I chose the worst possible way to get that. I cheated because I wanted to hurt someone who wasn't hurting me and tell myself a story in which I was the victim. That story is not true. The true story is simpler and harder. I aimed my need like a weapon and fired at my own life. If you're looking for a tidy redemption arc, I don't have one. I do have a day last spring when I went to drop off the kids and Lila was walking Ava home from school at the same time. We froze. Ava squealed and ran to Eli, who handed her a crumpled drawing he'd made for her. 2 figures holding hands under a sky of green stars. "Hi," I said to my sister. It felt small and big at once. She nodded. Not a smile. Not forgiveness. Just a nod. And then, carefully, "Ava, say thank you to Aunt Serena." Aunt Serena. The words landed like a bird that wasn't sure it would stay. I said nothing else. I did not try to open the door wider. I took that one word home and folded it like a note I didn't want to crease. A few weeks after that, Noah had a school assembly, and I sat in the back with my hands twisted in my lap. Marcus sat with Camilla in the row ahead. When Noah spotted us, his face bloomed into a grin that showed the gap where his tooth used to be. He waved at all of us, the kind of huge wave kids do when they haven't been told yet that you shouldn't. Marcus glanced back. Our eyes met. I mouthed, "Thank you." He nodded once. After the assembly, we stood in a clean, awkward triangle in the lobby. Camilla told me she liked my sweater. I said I liked her shoes. Noah dragged us to the bulletin board where he'd stapled an essay about what he wanted to be when he grew up. A firefighter like his dad, or a book editor like his mom. He didn't know I was no longer editing books, that my new job was proofreading catalogs and instruction manuals from home. A quieter corner of the publishing world that paid the bills and left room for school pickups. In his mind, we were both still the bravest versions of ourselves. "Wanna grab pizza?" Marcus asked him. "Can Mom come too?" Noah said. The question hung there. Camilla looked at Marcus. Marcus looked at me. I didn't breathe. "Not tonight, buddy," Marcus said gently. "But maybe soon." On the way out, I put a hand on Noah's shoulder. "I'm proud of you," I said. "For your essay. For how hard you practiced your song. For all of it." He nodded like I had just passed him something he could put in his pocket. I went home alone. I made pasta and ate it standing up. I washed the dish right away, not to be virtuous, but because tidy things help on days when nothing else feels like it fits. I sat at the little table by the window and wrote this. I am trying to tell the whole story, not because it makes me look good. God, it doesn't. But because love and damage are both made up of details. And if I am careless with the details, I am careless with the truth. Here are the ones you asked for, and the ones that matter. My name is Serena, 33. My ex-husband is Marcus, 36. The calm kind of man who runs toward fires. We met in a coffee shop and made a life with 3 kids. Noah, 9, Grace, 7, Eli, 4. My sister is Lila, 30, who used to call me at midnight to tell me about dreams that felt real. Her ex is Jordan Reyes, 32, who fixes the air in people's houses and broke the air in mine. We all live 10 houses and 1,000 miles apart. The night that broke everything started with a commercial and an argument about abortion. Me with my chest full of yes to bodily autonomy, him with his steady no because children are blessings and you don't destroy blessings, and ended with me in the back seat of a car that wasn't mine. The morning after, Marcus made breakfast. Eggs, bacon, avocado, toast. For weeks I clutched guilt like it was a life raft, when really it's just the weight that sinks you. At a child's birthday party, a neighbor with a doorbell camera handed the truth to the room, and my sister said why in a voice that will ride in my blood for the rest of my life. Marcus didn't yell. He walked away. He asked for a divorce. He was fair in the ways that count, and unsparing in the way that mattered most. He stopped loving me the way he used to. 1 year and 6 months later, he has a house where my kids race across grass, and a girlfriend they like, and a life I didn't protect. I have an apartment that smells like lemon cleaner, and a medicine cabinet with children's toothpaste cups, and a shelf of picture books in a row. I have therapy appointments and a calendar full of pickups and drop-offs, and the names of the women in my building who sit on the stoop with me in the evenings and ask nothing that I can't answer. I have the knowledge that I will never do again what I did. I do not have my sister, yet. Maybe not ever. I have the hope that someday we will share a bench at a dance recital. Knees touching, The small truce of two mothers watching other people's stories unfold. This is not a happy ending, but it is a clean one. On good days, I think that matters more. On the wall over my table hangs a framed piece of paper with something Grace wrote in crayon. Fix what you can. Hold what you break. She spelled break as break. I left it like that. There's a kind of wisdom in the misspelling. Break. Slow down. Stop before you go where the road ends and the guardrail begins. If you're waiting for me to tell you that Marcus and I found our way back to each other, I won't lie to you. We didn't. We found our way forward. That's the shape of our good ending. We don't talk about politics or the past. We talk about field trip forms and the dentist and whether Eli's cough sounds worse at night. He and Camilla stand in my kitchen sometimes at pickup, and we exchange the kind of smiles people trade across a polite distance. When I close the door behind them, sometimes I cry. Then I wash the mugs and stack them to dry. Then I text Noah a picture of the velociraptor I found in a book I'm proofreading. He sends back too many emojis. I turn off the kitchen light. The house is quiet. The story is not neat, but it's honest now, and sometimes that's the only good ending you get. The kind where you finally stop pretending the bad chapter was written by someone else. The kind where you look straight at the thing you broke, and instead of wishing for magic, you show up with glue and patience and a new set of rules that aren't for anyone else but you. Listen more than you argue. Apologize before the other person does. Don't chase validation down a dark street at midnight. If you're angry, go to sleep. If you're lonely, tell the truth to someone safe. If someone loves you calmly, don't mistake it for lack. And if you ever find yourself standing in front of a car that looks like an exit, remember, the door you open might be the one that closes behind you forever.